Hi everybody, you're welcome back to the channel. This is Hannah TEGA. I hope you're all doing well and you're having an amazing week. In this video today, I'll be showing you how to make a no-collar v-neck blazer, and it's so simple and straightforward. Without delay, let's get cracking. After laying your pattern paper on the table, you want to mark half an inch at the start line of the paper. That will be your start line or the shoulder line. Half an inch, you can decide to take one if you want. Then on the side of the paper, you want to mark 2 inches. Take 2 inches for the side and rule a line all the way down to the end of your paper. I would assume the length of your paper is the length of your blazer plus allowance. Now for your neckline, you want to take 3 inches for the width and 3 inches for the neck depth. So it's 3 inches by 3 inches. Then mark your shoulder divided by 2. If your shoulder is 16, mark 8, then add half an inch seam allowance, which I've done there. Then from the half an inch seam allowance, come down by 1 inch and connect that to the neck width. So that's the slope, shoulder slope connected to the neck width. Then you want to draw out your neckline. So that's it. Next, we want to move on and add our shoulder to bust point measurement. So from your shoulder to your bust point, make the marking and rule a line across. Then we'll move on again to shoulder to waistline. So you want to add your shoulder to waistline. Whatever it is, make the marking and rule a line across as well. Here I'm extending the lines to the 2 inches allowance. Next, you're gonna add your shoulder to hip line measurement. Whatever it is, add and rule a line, same as the waist and the bust line. From the hip line, I'm gonna come down by 4 inches because of the length of the blazer I'm making. I'll make the marking and rule a line as well. Now I'm gonna add 1 inch hem allowance. You can choose to add 1.5 instead of 1. So you can add 1 or 1.5 for your hem allowance. So that's the bust line, that's the waistline, and that's the hip line, the blouse length, and the hem allowance over there. So that's all you need for now for your vertical measurement. Now for your armhole, you need to divide your armhole circumference by 2. Whatever you have, you add it. Or you divide your bust circumference by 6 and add 1.5. That's how you get your armhole, half of your armhole. Then make the marking from the shoulder slope and rule a line across like this, and that will form the chest line. I'm gonna repeat again. For your armhole, you need to divide your armhole circumference by 2, or divide your bust circumference by 6 and add 1.5 inches. So that will give you the chest line. Now you want to mark half of that. Whatever half of your armhole is, mark the midpoint. For your front armhole, you come in by half an inch or 3/4 of an inch and draw out your armhole. For a perfect armhole, you should have marked quarter of your bust circumference before drawing the armhole out. So your bust circumference divided by 4, whatever it is, you make the marking, and the same marking applies to the chest line. It applies to the chest line, and that's where your armhole ends. Now after marking the bust line, you want to add 1 inch seam allowance. Add 1 inch seam allowance and move on to the waistline. So a quarter of your waistline Make the marking and add 1 inch seam allowance, then add 1 inch for the dart allowance. Now on the hip, you only want to add 1 inch seam allowance after marking quarter of your hip measurement. So it's only on the waist we've taken an extra 1 inch for the dart allowance. Whatever measurement you've got on the hip line, mark the same on the blouse length and the hem allowance. Next, you want to add your bust span measurement for the dart. So your bust span is your nipple to nipple measurement. Whatever it is, add. Once that is sorted, you want to come down from the bust line by 1 inch. On the waistline, you want to take half an inch on each sides of the dot. Half an inch on one side and half an inch on the other to make the 1 inch dart allowance. Then you want to make the connection, draw out your dart. Before connecting to the hip line, I came up by 1 inch. And if you remember, I came down by 1 inch on the bust line and 1 inch up on the hip line. Now for the V-neck shape, you want to come out by 1¼ inches. Mark 1¼ inches from the top of the paper right down and rule a line. This is for the V-neck shape. Now I'm gonna draw out the V-neck shape from the neck width right to the waistline. So I want the V to stop around the waistline. You can choose where you want the V to stop, either 2 inches above your waist or 3 inches above, is up to you. I want mine to stop around the waistline, as you can see here. And I'm gonna make a curve because I don't want it very sharp around the waistline, so it's gonna be curvy. So now I came up from the blouse length by 3 inches, as you can see there, because I'm gonna make a curve as well to shape out the blazer. So that's the center front drafting. This is the center front. You've got a V-neck shape there and you've got a curve. I made some alteration to the shape till I was satisfied. If you want to add a button on the waistline, you can go ahead and do that. But like I said, we haven't added any ease allowance to this blazer, so it's not gonna work. A button will not work, except you just want to design with a button. Now back to the dart. Divide that shoulder by 2 and connect to the dart. So we're gonna be slashing that bit open when we're cutting our dart. Divide that by 2 and rule the line. Then you want to connect that right down to the hem line. Once that is done, you want to shape the side of the front panel as well. You want to come up by 2 inches from the blouse length and make your curve. I want you to take note that I came up by 2 inches from the blouse length, not from the hem line. Take note of that. The paper is folded at the hemline here and I just came up by 2 inches for that curve. Here I'm drawing out the 1 inch seam allowance. So that's the 1 inch seam allowance. Next, we want to draw out the back armhole. So for the back armhole, just make your curve from that midpoint all the way down. It's not going to be the same as the front one. So that's the back armhole drafted over there, if you can see that. So now I'm going to be cutting. Leave the armhole uncut for now because we're still going to use it to cut the back panel. So leave it uncut for now. And on the shoulder, before I forget, you want to add half an inch seam allowance. Half an inch seam allowance on the shoulder and draw out. So that's the benefit of us leaving half an inch at the start of drafting this pattern. So that's the half an inch shoulder allowance, and go ahead and cut. Then now it's time to draft the back panel. For the back panel, you are almost transferring everything we have on the front panel, but the neckline is different and the slit at the back is different. I went ahead and drafted the shoulder slant and marked 1 inch for the neck depth and 3 inches for the neck width. So the only difference is the neck depth. The neck depth for the back panel is 1, while the front we have 3 inches, which we altered into a V-neck. And as you can see here, I've got a line running at the center back, and it's only 1 inch allowance instead of the 2 inches we had on the front panel. So here I'm transferring exactly what we had on the front panel. You want to go on the waistline and come in by 3/4 of an inch. And the reason for this is because our back isn't straight. So we're going to reconstruct the back. So come in by 3/4 of an inch. I marked half an inch first, then later on made an alteration where I marked the 3/4 instead. Now I'm going to add the dart here. So for the dart, I've got 4 inches there. The back dart is different from the front dart, so I want you to take note of this. So it's a straight connection from the hip line and the bust line. You don't need to come down by 1 or go up by 1 inch. It's a straight connection. So here I've taken the 1 inch dart over there, I've marked it out, and I'm gonna construct the dart. And I'm gonna do the same, whereby I'll connect it right to the hemline and right up to the shoulder line. After adding the 3/4 on the waistline, I reshaped the back. Here I'm connecting the shoulder to the dart with a line. For the back armhole, I didn't have to start drafting all over. I just placed the front panel on the back panel and drew out the armhole for the back. So that's it. I moved on to add all the horizontal measurement. Next, I started adding the seam allowance. For the center back, I added half an inch for the seam allowance, and I just went with the curve. I went ahead to cut the back panel. You want to take note of the center back the way it is and the side as well, and also the shoulder line with the 1/2 inch allowance. Before cutting the dart, I cut out the front armhole. Now I'm cutting the dart here for the front and the back panel. You should have 4 pieces like this after cutting. You have the center front and the side front. You have the center back and the side back. So for the dart area, when cutting on your fabric, you should add 1/2 inch seam allowance all over, 1/2 inch seam allowance. And for the center front, you will need to add 1/2 inch there as well, because you'll be joining the center front to your facing. 1/2 inch to be added along the dart area when cutting your fabric. On the back panel, I've already added the 1/2 inch seam allowance, so you don't need to add any 1/2 inch seam allowance on the back. You only need to add 1/2 inch seam allowance each along the dart area on your fabric when cutting. We already have our 1 inch seam allowance on the side, so you don't need to add over there. I went ahead and drafted out my sleeve. If you haven't watched my sleeve tutorial, you need to watch the sleeve tutorial. I will leave the link below on how to draft your sleeve, a 2-piece sleeve or a regular sleeve. I will leave the link, so make sure you check that out. Next, I placed the sleeve pattern on the fabric and cut. I reconstructed my sleeve while I was cutting. Since I have the basic sleeve, I was able to alter to what shape I wanted. So watch the tutorial and you will be able to grasp how to cut a sleeve. I went ahead, placed the front panel and the back panel on my fabric and cut out. And don't forget, I added the 1/2 inch along the dart area, as you can see there. Make sure you do that when cutting yours as well. So here I have my panels all ready for stitching. This is the front panel here, and I went ahead and cut the back panel as well. I'll just repeat this. Make sure you remember to cut your 1/2 inch allowance for your dart. Next, I went ahead and cut the facing for the back neckline and the front as well. For the back, I cut 2 pieces. Instead of cutting 2 pieces for the back neckline, for the facing, you can decide to join the center back together before you cut your facing, and that will give you a one-piece facing. As you can see here, after stitching, I had 2 pieces but stitched together and it became one. For the front panel, I cut a facing as well on both sides, the same size as the center front, as you can see, and I applied an interfacing as well. To make the blazer a bit more steady, it is a heavy duty fabric and it was okay without lining. It was perfect. Otherwise, I could have opted for a soft lining and still fully lined the blazer, but I didn't want to because it was already heavy for me. That's the hemline there, and that's all my stitching. And this is the outcome of the blazer, as simple as it is. To further uplift the blazer, I went ahead and used this mesh to make roses and attached to the blazer. I also made tie belts which were attached to the center front of the blazer. Now we've come to the end of this tutorial. Thanks so much for watching right through to the end. I hope this tutorial will be helpful and I'll see you in the next one. Till then, look after yourself and bye for now.